course, the wind just picks up. I got to say, as I mentioned just before I turned on, I'm a very ignorant man. I didn't realise just the incredible life that you led. But I wanted to hit one or two dates really, just to kind of click into it. I'm thinking January 1997, you win your first professional fight in America. You're supposed to get 12,500 for the fight. I don't think you got anything from that. And then you come home to Ireland to a fairly kind of, great welcome at the airport. But at the same time, the same journalists are saying female boxing shouldn't be accepted. That's just such a perfect contradiction of there's the proof that you can do it, and it's accepted in other parts of the world, and yet in Ireland they're still. Yeah. Was that something that you? I don't know how much anger would come with that, or whether you accepted it at that point.
Well, no, it's very heartbreaking because I was a world champion who wasn't allowed to fight in my own country, and I always represented Ireland all through my career, but I wasn't able to fight in Ireland, so it was very heartbreaking. I really thought at that stage they'd say, yeah, this girl's done so much, she's a world champion now, it's time to let her fight at home, but it never happened.
And the money that you didn't get paid, was that just like a bit of a tricky promoter, or was that?
Yeah, it was a tricky promoter, just ran out without paying anybody, so I finally won the world title, but didn't get paid a penny for it.
Now, if we jump to a happier time, I'm thinking 8th of August 2012, you released your autobiography, My Call to the Ring. The next day, Katie Taylor wins gold at the Summer Olympics. That must have been, I'm hoping, just a moment of recognition that this is something that people are now taking seriously, and that not only that, but you yourself have sort of established yourself to the point where you've got a book out and people will obviously know you and have already sort of felt that this is something that you deserve this recognition. Was that a kind of a moment where you felt things had worked out, or did it happen before that?
Well, I mean, the book was a struggle too. I had to try to self-promote the book and come here and kind of run my own book tour, and so even the book was a struggle, and I thought the book would really help people realize the full picture of my vision for women's boxing, but even that was a struggle. It seems like now, 10 years forward, because this statute committee got put together in Drogheda with these wonderful people pushing and promoting me, now I'm finally getting the recognition.
And is that, I don't know if that feels not like too late, but does it always feels wonderful if people recognize what you've done with your life and all the struggles you've had, that there's some kind of thanks, we'll say, at the end of it. I don't know if that's easy to feel good about, or is there always going to be that feeling that it was unnecessarily tough? Because your trainer Pat McCormick said you're sort of paving the way for people 10-15 years from now will benefit from your struggles. But I don't know whether it's you've made your peace with that, or whether it's still a little bit of a hard road that you
Well, I'll tell you, the last 2 weeks in Ireland have been very healing, because I'm, finally getting the recognition, and I don't like to blow my own trumpet. I'm not going to go out there myself and say, hey, I'm the champion of the world, So the fact that Kieran McIver's put together this amazing committee in Drogheda, and they've got all this great press coverage now, I always felt like people knew who I was, but just didn't care that much. Now I realize just people didn't know, they just didn't know, and they do care.
We should let this lady have our coffees. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you so much. A cappuccino here, please. Thank you. There's Baileys in that, right?
No. You're nice though.
Thank you so much.
Would you like any sugars, or is that good?
Would you like sugar?
Oh, that's perfect.
I'm good. Thank you so much.
That's lovely.
But I do believe that Katie's kind of, there's a 10-year-old Katie Taylor writing a letter to you, calling up to your mom's house to talk to you about her love of boxing and how she's struggling to get any kind of leeway into it. To see her success, and I know last week she kind of met you again, just hadn't seen you for a while. That's got to be gratifying, that as much as you struggled, there's a sense that you did pave the way for someone like Katie to break on through.
Yeah, I mean, it's wonderful that she's acknowledges it so much, and I remember I really tried to encourage her as a young woman, because I knew if nobody followed along after me, it would just die out. And boy, did she follow along in a big way. So, I mean, it's all coming full circle. I try to help her, and now she in turn is helping me.
Well, we should accept that in any sport, defeat has to be part of the game. That's how what makes it exciting, is that you just don't know if your favourite's going to win. And Katie's defeat last week was probably just a reminder to all of us that everybody is, you know, infallible. There is a sense that you cannot be 100% sure of anything in any sport. Did it surprise you? I don't know how you felt when because that was a shock, I think, to Ireland as a nation.
Yeah, I mean, I know she's disappointed, but I really feel it's not that the actual decision of the fight itself is not that big a deal. I think it was a win for boxing, it was a win for Ireland, and it was a win for Katie Taylor in my book, because she took on such a difficult opponent, and she was a little short on the scorecards, but she fought an amazing fight, and you know, it's just the fact that she didn't win is not as big a deal, really, in the big scheme of things.
Sure. Well, I think, you know, you look at, you know, obviously one of the most famous, Muhammad Ali lost a few fights here and there. It's just part of the story. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, I'm going to jump back to 1997. Your first fight, you win 6 rounds, and almost immediately you realise that you can't, you know, fight in this country. I'm trying to figure out exactly when the ban happened, because you were able to do that fight, but you realised that.
I've been fighting in the States for a while. 1997 was when I won the world title, but I've been fighting in the States since 1990.
Well, I should say 1991 was the one I'm thinking of was your first kind of fight. My mistake.
Limerick. Yeah.
Right, and the fact that fight took place, was it just that fell under the radar, or was there was the ban coming in after that?
It was still banned, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so it was, it didn't break the ice as far as getting women's boxing recognized, and you know, the whole thing would be if women could fight amateur and develop their skills and their game, then of course the sport would grow. But as long as women couldn't fight amateur, it was holding the whole sport back. So you had to turn pro immediately.
Well, you were very young, and I'm guessing you knew your decision to head off, and you're in London. Pat McCormick, he becomes your trainer. You must have known this is going to be a long, lonely road, really, because you're not fighting just, you know, one organisation. It's almost like a perception in the entire country is not on board on this. Was there a kind of a doubt at all in your mind that this is the right thing to do?
Well, there was times I certainly wondered if I should give up, but then I would say, you know, if I give up now, all the little barriers I've broken all along the way will be gone to waste.
Right.
And I just felt if I kept pushing through all this stuff and had success, then the next generation came along could build on that. So, you know, I just had to keep opening the gates, and I couldn't, if I just gave up, then all those gates will close back over again. So
in the movie version of your life would be a montage for the next few years of the ups and downs, and of the, you know, the wins and the losses and all that. Did that period of time, you know, feel good, or would you look back at it with fondness, or was it was it lonely? I'm guessing there was that.
It was lonely. I mean, I had my times of joy were, of course, winning fights, you know. But yeah, there was lots of setbacks, and definitely had a very roller coaster career, and definitely some really low times where I felt hopeless.
Yeah.
And you know, felt I'd gone down the wrong road of no return at times. I mean, I had to come out of it with a world title. That's the only way I could validate myself.
And from the family point of view, like I know your sister Sheena in Delgany, and Catherine's up in Eden Gate area. Did they sort of become aware? Was it the move to London that made them aware that this was your passion, or I don't know if it was you revealed later?
I think once that I fought for the first world title, and there was a documentary done on it. I think once they saw the documentary and the whole scope of while women's boxing was coming along, and that there was all these other women wanting to box as well, I think they realized just how serious I was about it.
So that idea too, that Katie had you as somebody to look up to and feel, well, it is possible. What about you though? I can't think of, you know, in the era before that, you know, 20 years before you started, I can't think of a boxer that would have been trying the same thing in this country. Yeah,
no, I wasn't. No, there was nobody. I mean, I followed the men. I followed Barry McGuigan.
Right,
so, you know, my idols were male boxers.
Right.
And I wanted to be like them. I wasn't trying to become the best female boxer. I wanted to become the best boxer, period. So, you know, you have to reach for the stars to touch the clouds sometimes.
So 2015, you're inducted into the Hall of Fame. I'm just trying to think, was there a moment where it felt like, okay, this is all worked out for me, or whether it's always a little bit of a I don't know, just a hard kind of acceptance that you had to do so much just to be recognised for what you loved?
Yeah, I mean, it was nice to feel recognized and not forgotten, because sometimes I feel history can be easily erased or forgotten about. But you know, in boxing circles, everybody remembers the fight with Christy Martin, so that's what kind of keeps me in the memories of the boxing world. So it feels good.
So that idea now that there is a different world in Greystones, we've got the wonderful Casey Rock, and there's a young a lawless girl. It's such a normal thing now that it's not even, you know, well, thankfully it's no longer even sort of, you know, thought about. It's not even like, oh, well, I wonder if this is okay, or should you do this, or should you do that. That must feel good that there's now a country entirely different to the one you grew up in.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, I sometimes do think, oh gosh, if I could have just walked into a boxing club and trained really hard and get all these opportunities and represent Ireland, you know, in the world, the Olympics and the World Championships, and do all these things. I mean, I would have loved all that, and I would have loved to have stayed in Ireland.
Right.
But you know, I'm just really grateful that other girls have all the opportunities now. Now they have the trainers. I mean, when I was boxing, trainers weren't frowned upon for even helping me.
Right.
So you know, it's so different, and I'm so glad.
We should mention you're got the Raging Cajun boxing, that you are like still in the game. That's obviously something that you sort of feel it is a life rather than, well, this is just something I do.
Well, you just gotta, I felt, keep giving back, you know, and I was going to retire from boxing. I felt I had to fill the void by coaching.
Right.
And giving back to the game and help others the way others helped me. So.
I suppose finally, is there a point of you know, absolute joy? And maybe you've had quite a few of them. I don't know if there's a moment that you just always feel, well, that was, everything was worth it just for that moment.
Gosh, well, that's
I know that's a bit of a kind of a vague kind of
probably watching Katie win the gold medal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I will say you're an inspiration not only obviously for a lot of boxers, but just the idea that anybody has a passion, and against a lot of odds, and they're stacked, you know, that you would actually just continue down a road
definitely.
so well done.
Yeah. If you got a vision, you just got to follow through, no matter what. See it to the end.